My wife was 6 months pregnant when I discovered she had already hired a divorce lawyer. She had already opened a secret trust account. She had already made changes to my life insurance policy without telling me. And the man she had been sleeping with, she had known him for over a year. While we were trying for a baby. While I was planning our future. While I was completely in the dark. But here is the part that made my blood run cold. She did not get pregnant by accident and then panic and start protecting herself. She got pregnant on purpose. As part of the plan. The baby was her financial strategy. Her legal anchor. Her guarantee that no matter what happened in court, she would walk away with everything. She had mapped out every single move. She was so far ahead, so carefully prepared, that she truly believed I would never catch up. She had one blind spot. She forgot that I spent 15 years reading numbers for a living. And the moment I got one small email notification on a Tuesday morning, her entire plan fell apart. Let me take you back to that morning. Because everything started there. Her name is Renata. You need to understand who she was before I tell you what she did. She never made mistakes. She read every contract before signing. She kept a 5-year plan in a leather notebook she updated every January. She thought everything through 3 times before she acted. We were married for 8 years. I worked in financial planning. She was a project manager. Good house, good jobs, and what I truly believed was a completely honest marriage. When she was 36, she told me she was ready for a baby. I said yes. I was excited. I meant every single word. What I did not know was that she was already preparing to leave me. And she had planned it so well, the only thing that stopped her was something she forgot to hide. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning in March. My phone buzzed at my work desk. A notification from our joint bank account. Connected to a life insurance policy I had taken out 7 years ago. A big payout policy. Renata had always been the beneficiary. We set it up together. I had not thought about it since. The notification said one thing. Beneficiary update, confirmed. I figured it was routine. I opened the account and pulled up the policy. I read it once. Then I read it again. My hand stopped moving. Renata had made a change to the policy. It looked small on the surface. Just some numbers shifting around. But buried inside was something I had never seen before. A brand new private trust account. One I had never heard of. Never discussed. Set up 11 days earlier with someone else's name as trustee. Someone I did not recognize at all. I checked our shared financial calendar. Every bill and account we had was tracked on it together. This change was not on it. She had never mentioned it. It just appeared quietly one afternoon while I was at work. I closed my office door and sat very still. I am a financial planner. 15 years. I know exactly what it looks like when someone is quietly building a structure they do not want you to find until it is already too late. I knew what I was looking at. I just needed to know how deep it went. I said nothing to Renata that night. I came home. Made dinner. Smiled when she talked about the baby. Held her hand while we watched TV like nothing had changed. But behind my eyes, everything was moving fast. I went through 18 months of our finances that night. Bank statements. Credit cards. Insurance documents. Everything. I was not looking for one bad charge. I was looking for a pattern. What I found broke something inside me. Because it was so much worse than a hidden trust. The trust was created on February 14th. Valentine's Day. I had taken Renata to her favorite restaurant that night. She was warm, relaxed, laughing. She ordered expensive wine and held my hand across the table and talked about baby names. While I was holding her hand at that dinner, she had already filed the trust paperwork earlier that same day. That was the first thing. The second thing was worse. The week after Valentine's Day she had a series of medical appointments. She said they were normal pregnancy checkups. I had no reason to doubt her. But one of those appointments was not with her doctor. It was with a divorce lawyer. 90 minutes. Their office was in the same building as her OB, easy to hide. I found the parking charge buried in a credit card statement I had never checked closely, because I had always trusted her. She had visited a divorce lawyer before our baby was even 3 months in the womb. But the third thing kept me up until 2 in the morning. I need you to understand what I found. I checked the date the trust was created against the timeline of the pregnancy. Specifically, the week the baby would have been conceived. It was the exact same week. Not after she found out she was pregnant. Not after a positive test. Not after any doctor confirmed anything. The same week she was trying to get pregnant, she was already building the trust, meeting with a divorce lawyer, and secretly changing my insurance policy. She did not make a mistake and then try to protect herself. She planned this. Every single piece of it. She got pregnant knowing it would give her financial power in the divorce. The baby was not just a baby to her. The baby was her strategy. I sat alone at 2 in the morning staring at all of it laid out in front of me. Then I called my lawyer. And told him to get ready. His name is Leonard Park. Calm. Sharp. Never wastes a word. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished he was quiet for a moment. Then he said something I will never forget. This is not a marriage that fell apart. This is a financial operation. She was building her exit before the pregnancy was confirmed. She planned to leave on her terms, with your money, and use the child as the legal anchor to make sure she won. I already knew it. I needed to hear it said clearly so I could stop questioning myself. What do? I asked. His answer was simple. Do not confront her. Do not change your behavior. Do not touch the joint money. And then quietly, legally, start building your own structure. I did not steal anything. I did not move money that was not mine. Every single step I took was legal, documented, and advised by Leonard. I updated my own will. Changed the beneficiary from Renata to a personal trust in my name. Clean and legal. I moved every asset that was mine before the marriage into that trust. Investment accounts, business ownership, property from my father. All of it documented and protected. Then I hired a private investigator named Desmond. Former fraud investigator. No emotion. Just facts. I gave him the trust papers, the parking charge, the insurance change, and a night in November I had been trying to forget. A night Renata came home 2 hours late smelling like a restaurant I had never heard of. With a look in her eyes that was not meant for me. He came back in 12 days. And what he found was not what I expected at all. The man's name was Marcus Holt. Senior director at the same company where Renata worked. According to Desmond they had been meeting privately since the summer before. But Desmond had kept digging. Because something in the financial timeline did not add up to him. And here is what he found that nobody had told me. Marcus Holt was not just Renata's affair partner. He was the named trustee on her private trust account. The same trust she had set up on Valentine's Day. The same trust she had secretly redirected part of my life insurance payout toward. She had put the men she was sleeping with in legal control of the money she was hiding from me. Think about what that means. If something had happened to me, an accident, an illness, anything, that payout would not have gone to Renata as a grieving widow. It would have gone directly into a trust that Marcus Holt had the legal authority to manage. She had not just planned to leave me. She had built a financial structure that made her better off if I was gone entirely. I sat with that information for a very long time. And then I gave Desmond one more thing to look into. I asked Desmond to go back further. Not 6 months. Not a year. Further. What he found in the following week is the detail that still stops me cold when I think about it. The trust was not the first one. 14 months before February 14th, before the trust one had found, before the insurance change, before any of this, Renata had attempted to open a different account. A joint account between herself and Marcus Holt. At a bank neither of us had ever used together. The application was denied. Not for suspicious reasons. A routine issue with the documentation she submitted. She tried a second time 3 months later. Denied again. So she changed her approach. Instead of a joint account, a trust. With Marcus as trustee. Clean, legal, harder to trace, and completely invisible unless someone knew exactly what to look for. She had been attempting to build this financial exit for over a year before I ever saw that email. This was not a plan she made in a panic. This was a plan she had been refining and improving every time it failed, until she finally found a version that worked. Leonard looked at everything Desmond had compiled and said 4 words very quietly. She knew what she was doing. I did not steal anything. I did not move money that was not mine. Every single step I took was legal, documented, and advised by Leonard. I updated my own will. Changed the beneficiary from Renata to a personal trust in my name. Clean and legal. I moved every asset that was mine before the marriage into that trust. Investment accounts, business ownership, property from my father. All of it documented and protected. Then I waited. And waited for the moment she thought. She had one. Renata gave birth on a Thursday in October. I was in the room. I held her hand. I watched my son come into the world with a full head of dark hair and a cry that filled every corner of that room. And for one moment, everything else stopped. I want to be honest here. People expect this story to be only about cold strategy and payback. But when they placed that baby in my arms, none of it existed. Not the trust, not Marcus, not the plan. None of it. I held him and I memorized his face and I knew that whatever came next, this part was completely real. 6 weeks later I made the call that ended everything she had built. I filed for a paternity test. Formally. Through Leonard. With full documentation. Renata's lawyer called Leonard 2 days later. I imagine what she felt in that moment. She had believed until then that everything was still on track. That the trust, the secret appointments, the carefully managed relationship with Marcus, all of it still invisible. That I was still the husband at the kitchen table who never looked at his own numbers. The results came back on a Wednesday morning. I read the number once. Set the paper down. Looked out the window for a long time. Then I called Leonard. 2 words. Proceed. Everything. The divorce was filed the following week. Leonard had been preparing for 6 months. Every document clean and ready. The full timeline laid out in perfect order, the failed joint account applications, the trust, the Valentine's Day filing, the conception window, the divorce lawyer visit, the insurance change. All of it. In sequence. 14 months of documented planning. Desmond's full report was attached. Her lawyer came in with confidence. Tried multiple approaches over the following months. Every single one hit a wall of documentation they had not expected. Because here is something most people do not know about divorce court. When you can prove that one spouse began financially planning the divorce before the marriage was over, before even telling their partner anything was wrong, the court treats that very differently. It is not just infidelity anymore. It is what lawyers call dissipation of marital assets combined with financial misconduct. And when you add a fraudulent beneficiary change on a life insurance policy to that picture, the case stops being about who cheated on who. It becomes a financial fraud case sitting inside a divorce case. And Renata had documented her own fraud better than any investigator could have done it for her. She had not planned on that. She had not planned on a Tuesday morning email. She had not planned on a husband who finally decided to read his own numbers. I walked out with everything that had legally been mine. Marcus Holt was removed as trustee by court order. The trust was dissolved. The insurance policy was restored to its original structure. And the plan she had spent over a year building, quietly, carefully, one failed attempt at a time, was dismantled in a single afternoon in a courtroom. My son's name is Eli. 18 months old. Same dark hair he was born with. A laugh that is completely his own. I see him 3 days every week and I do not miss a single one. Some mornings I still put on the anniversary watch my wife gave me on our 8th anniversary. 4 words on the back. Every minute with you. She meant it as a gift. It turned out to be a reminder. Here is what I want you to know, not just from this story, but as a fact about how the world actually works. Most insurance companies will send an automatic email notification when a beneficiary is changed. Most people do not know this. Most people never check. The insurance company is not trying to protect you, it is just a system running automatically in the background. Renata did not know I had turned on account notifications 2 years earlier during a routine financial review. A simple setting. One checkbox. That one checkbox is what unraveled 14 months of planning. Check your accounts. Turn on your notifications. Know what is in your name. Not because you suspect something. Not because you are looking for a problem. Because the one time it matters, it will already be too late to look. Time cannot be hidden in a trust. Cannot be moved to a secret account. Cannot be taken by a court or protected by a lawyer. It can only be spent. She spent 8 years building a plan to take everything from me. I spent the last 6 months of that marriage making sure she couldn't. And I have spent every single day since exactly where I am supposed to be. That is the one thing she never found a way to take. If this story hit you, you already know what to do.